Okay, so this video should have been a 7-day review, but I'm sorry. This is already over 15 days and I'm really confident to tell you almost everything I wanted to tell you about this iPhone 15 Plus. And I think this phone is probably one of the biggest upgrade, even year-over-year upgrade seen ever in a standard iPhone. Now, the reason behind me saying this is not the design though. The design is really boring. At this point, we have seen the same design with the 12, the 13, even the 14. The last two models basically look identical to this model, except it has a new finish at the back. And that's in and of itself make it more interesting than you think. Now, this matte finish is so damn good that I haven't seen anything like this in recent times. This one though, with this kind of colors, the pastel colors, look like kind of a paper. If that doesn't make sense to you, it shouldn't, because it's just unreal. But then again, it comes at a cost. There is no color in it. It's just so muted. But I still think that the green color looks better if you don't want to buy the pink or the black. The black actually looks super sexy, but I am not a black fan. But also, I would have loved the colors of the side frame to be a little bit more darker. Like, this is a little too light. But one interesting thing that they have done, which still doesn't make sense to me though, but they've curved the edges. The flat sides now have a slight curve when they meet the glass at the back or the front. Now, this makes the phone much more comfortable. But then again, you have to keep in mind that me kind of people who are coming from like iPhone 11, 10R, 10s Max, 11 Pro Max, these people will always hate this, because even though it is much more easier to pick up the phone from the table, but this is really, I want to emphasize that, uncomfortable when holding tightly for longer. Like certain cases, you hold the phone tightly, walking around, running around. This feels really uncomfortable. Now, this phone, if you close your eyes, it will feel premium. But when you look at it and feel it, it kind of feels like a toy, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depending on who you are. But I think last year's stainless steel Pro models looked the most beautiful ones. Like the heft of it is just incredible. I haven't had a chance to play with this year's Pro Max, so I can't really say anything. Anyway, the one thing that I really like about this phone at the front is the dynamic island. It can be a very much of a marketing thing, I know that, but I guess it's better than having a notch in most cases. Because Apple still thinks that Face ID is the future. And the Face ID needs all of those sensors. Unlike Google. Google is doing the Face ID kind of thing, but with photos. But that's slightly less secure than this. So now, because Apple don't want to sacrifice the Face ID for anything, in that specific scenario, until Apple develops under-display Face ID, we will have to deal with something. And that something right now is called Dynamic Island. It's cool or whatever you want to say, but I don't find it that useful, except in certain cases like calls and stuff. But the Dynamic Island interrupts you a lot more than the notch when you're watching a video. But what I find useful in the front is the display. It has slim bezels like last year's Pro Max. It's actually the same screen as the last year's Pro Max. Also, it has the same 2000 nits of peak brightness. And this is a massive upgrade specifically for those people who, like me, was using iPhone 11 with 625 nits of peak brightness. But then the peak brightness thing isn't so simple. Let me explain. The first thing is that peak brightness can be reserved for a good amount of pixels, but not for the full display, because that will create a lot of heating issues. So that's the only reason why companies are not going to do that. But even then, these numbers are misleading, kind of. For example, the difference between 1750 nits and 2000 nits are smaller than the difference between 1500 nits and 1750 nits. And that is even smaller than the difference between 1250 nits and 1500 nits. You might be thinking, what's the reason? Well, the brightness measured in actually logarithmic scale, not in linear scale. So it is drastically better than the iPhone 11 for sure. But this is not a big upgrade if you're coming from a phone that has 1500 nits of peak brightness. You see what I'm trying to say here. Also, another thing is that too much of high brightness also makes the phone go real warm. And then the brightness go down to 50% of the manual brightness. That's funny actually. Now, I'm also using a much bigger screen in the form of a 6.7-inch display. It seems really big compared to what I was used to. But now when I see an iPhone 11, it seems really tiny. So you see what I'm trying to say here. If you are upgrading from a smaller phone, thinking it would be too big, I guess you're going to love it over time, unless you have really tiny hands. You know what? Apple needs something for the next year's model, or maybe next year's model, so that people will upgrade from this year's phone to that. And that specific feature has to be the refresh rate this year. Last year, it was dynamic island. The refresh rate is still 60 Hz, and that's fine for me because I'm coming from a 60 Hz phone to another 60 Hz. It doesn't matter, but it does matter to a lot of people. So the performance per wattage is crazy, but also still, I can't ignore the fact that this is a 60 Hz display. Not a great thing when you look at the pricing is $899. Forget about this fact that it does cost $1,100 in certain other markets. So there is no way Apple can justify this price tag with a 60 Hz panel. But then again, that's not the whole phone either. Now we need to talk about the battery life. In this case, it's only 4,383 mAh, but I expected something different out of this phone. And it does so damn good. Now, even I usually do a battery charging to only 80% because it has a new setting inside the battery settings exclusive to this year's model. I don't know why, but that's the case. In my heavy use case battery test, it mostly lasted for 9 hours of screen on time. Damn man, that is literally so good. It just cleared my battery anxiety totally. I can depend on this phone even when it is at 20%. If that doesn't make sense to you, then I don't know what else will. Like I can still watch YouTube videos, still call people. I won't be worried about the phone dying on me anytime soon. Even at 1%, at full brightness, it can play YouTube videos without any lag, any stutter for a good amount of minutes. And that is the kind of performance per wattage and battery life you're going to get out of this phone. Now you can check out my battery test, the individual battery test if you want, but that's not where the good thing ends though. There is another thing. And for me, this is probably one of the biggest reasons why I bought this phone. And the reason is, USB-C port. Now this is still nowhere close to the USB-C port you will find on most Android phones nowadays, where they use the USB 3.2 Gen port, but at the very least, you get a USB-C port. The speed is still USB 2.0, so it's 60 megabytes per second or 480 megabits per second. But at the very least, I can charge it with any Android chargers in my home. That's a big relief for me, like a massive kudos to European Union. Now, the USB-C port also can do so many more things than just charging or data transfer. If you want, you can check out that video too. I will link down below. But this is really good. Now, you have to keep in mind that this charges the phone very slowly by modern day standards. But you know what? I actually don't mind that much, considering I only charge it from like 20 to 80 usually. Wireless charging is there, but it's just slow on any devices without any dedicated fan and stuff. It's 15 watt max. Anyway, the next major big upgrade is probably the cameras department. And boy oh boy, it's a 48 megapixel camera, and I have even compared it with my S22 Ultra's 108 megapixel 1/1.33 inch sensor, which is far more bigger than the 48 megapixel 1/1.5 inch sensor used inside this phone. Yet, this phone offers the same or even better details when you take full 48 megapixel photo. And this is by far the best thing I've seen on any phone. By default, it takes 24 megapixel photos, which are already much detailed and much more greater than the typical 12 megapixel photo taken by any other iPhones before or even other Android phones. But I'm in love with the fact that the 48 megapixel photo is super detailed. And also there is no shutter lag when you are taking the 48 megapixel photo. But yeah, then comes the Apple Crocs. They don't allow you to take any RAW photos at all on this phone because it's not a Pro model. That's software locking thing. Anyway, it also has much more wider aperture than the Pro and the Pro Max. It is at f1.6 aperture. And that's the only reason why the nighttime photos are crazy detailed and crazy bright. Like even if there is a small amount of hint of a light, it will make it quite bright. Another thing is that the portrait mode. It works automatically on pets and human subjects, or even when you tap to focus on something. You can actually customize the strength of the effect in the gallery afterwards, so you don't have to worry about that, or you can turn it off in the gallery too. But that is fantastic that it is automatically doing it. And the same thing can be said about the focus cinematic video. Under direct light or bright light, sometimes it looks unreal that it is taken with a photo. You can't really imagine that. How is that possible? I mean, it's processing 30 frames of 4K resolution per second. That is a freaking good thing, and it doesn't show any kind of signs of lag or anything like that. Now, if you do too many movements, it might be visible that this is taken on a phone, but hey, in most cases, it's just impressive. Now, the ultra-wide angle camera here is upgraded. It's a 12 megapixel unit still. It's a good sensor. I don't know what I feel about it. I mean, like, it's a nighttime photos look amazing. Daylight photos look amazing too. So there's nothing crazy about it. It's just like a normal ultra-wide angle camera, a good one. But it also doesn't offer macro mode. I mean, like, why not? It also no secret that Apple continuously trying to differentiate the Pro and the non-Pro models by removing certain features. For example, they don't provide the zoom cameras to the standard model. But now, this year, they did provide something amazing, and that is a sensor crop feature. Now, this sensor cropping feature will actually allow them to zoom in to 2x without losing any quality. Now, the resolution will drop to 12 megapixels, but at the very least, you have a dedicated phantom telephoto camera in the form of a main camera. Kind of a very cool thing. It's not the same as the digital crop though, if you're thinking. But then again, it's really cool if you want to have that perspective. I mean, why not? Now, what makes it more interesting than a dedicated 12 megapixel 2x camera, that it is still having the same f1.6 aperture. So in the lower light, the phantom zoom camera, I'm saying it, is still gonna be amazing than a dedicated 12 megapixel 2x zoom camera for sure. Like, that is the best part of it. Now, this is the same technology might be used inside the S24 Ultra we are hearing, but we will see. The next thing is the Face ID sensor and the selfie cameras. Now, this is something that I think that there is a big improvement in the form of a selfie camera, because I'm coming from the iPhone 11, so this is a big upgrade in terms of HDR capabilities and day-to-day photos, but it can shoot really good 4K 60fps videos if you want, slow motion videos, and good enough selfies even in the night. So that's good. The Face ID though, it's much more improved Face ID than you think. Like, it can now work from many different angles. I think that they started with the iPhone 13 or 12, I don't know. But anyway, it does work even if you have it in the landscape mode. That's good for me. And you don't have to bend down too much when the phone is on the table, because it can actually scan your face from a lot far distance, as well as it also cannot work with different angles. So this is really good. Good upgrade. Now, as far as the other things are concerned, the A16 is supremely good. I will not stress about the performance for like few years down the line. Day-to-day performance is similar to the A17 Pro. GPU-wise, it's weaker compared to that chip, but then again, that's a Pro chip. That's the best chip they can produce right now, so it's good. Heating issues aren't there at all anymore. I faced once when I was on Instagram for 30 minutes, but that's about it. I never saw the heating issues that people were complaining about. It also has the same 6GB of memory as the iPhone 14 Pro. Nothing really great, nothing really bad. Same UFS 3.1 storage, not the fastest one, not the bad one, and it's mostly because it has the same SoC. So yeah, that's the reason. Now, there is also a new ultra-wideband chip for better small proximity location detection, but I don't really care about that. Now, I think this phone also has great 5G capabilities. I haven't seen any call drops or anything like that. Now, also, the mic and the speakers are pretty good. I really love it. One interesting thing is that with iOS 17 though, there is a feature where you can actually turn off the background noise while doing a phone call. They will not be able to hear anything other than your voice. And that too, even if you're talking for a faraway distance, it will still be amazing. Here's one example for you.
So, can you hear me? Because the music is playing and there are some voices too. So, can you hear me from this place? Like, I'm about like 1.5 feet away from this phone. I'm gonna tap over here and I'm gonna click on voice isolation. And now tell me, can you hear this one or you can hear me? I'm pretty far away from it. Okay. The music is still playing as it is. You can see that I'm at full volume, like yeah, it's at full volume. Yet you can't probably hear it.
Now, talking about the speakers, when playing music and stuff, it is so damn good. Like really loud. I found it to be 84 decibels or so, but just take it with a pinch of salt. The clarity and the depth is amazing. I love the speakers. So here's a sound comparison between this phone and my iPad Pro 11-inch. Anyway, so it does have the IP68 up to 6 meters for 30 minutes, which is much better than having the normal IP68. And it also slightly costs less to repair the back glass. But it's not anywhere easily repairable. Like comparatively it is, but not that much. So overall, I think this phone is a perfect iPhone for me, or me kind of people, those who don't care about the difference between the 60 Hz, 90 Hz or 120 Hz, but they care about the great battery life. They care about a great quality big display to watch videos and do stuff. And that also has a great overall brightness outdoor when it's needed. Our great quality speakers, our dependable camera setup, solid video capabilities, great nighttime photos, and overall a good iPhone or a good phone, but without paying that extra Pro Max price, which in certain countries can reach up to $1,700. So looking at that price tag, I can say this is the best iPhone people should buy. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What is your experience with the iPhone 15 or 15 Plus? And yes, if you want, you can get some crazy cool wallpapers up on my website. Definitely visit my website, joindavid.com, link down below. So yeah, that's about it. Until the next one, bye and take care.